Today, we will cover several events that took place during the siege of Knoxville, Tennessee. Why did Lieutenant General Longstreet delay the attack against Fort Sanders? Will Major General Joseph Wheeler be able to take Kingston, or will he be defeated? And what happens at Knoxville at the same time as Wheeler is attacking Kingston? Knoxville will still be under siege and still will be getting help from outside sources. Come along with us as we walk through the events that took place on November 23rd and 24th in 1863. All aboard the Kentucky-Tennessee Living Time Machine. Please fasten your seatbelts and keep your arms and legs inside of the vehicle at all times. But to get going, we need your help. We still need to fire up that time machine to transport us. Please help us by clicking on the like, subscribe, and bell notification buttons down below. Not only does this fire up the time machine, but it convinces the YouTube algorithm that we need a bigger time machine to reach more people who love history as much as you do. Now, back to our story. Delaying the Fort Sanders attack? There were actually several things going on at one time. Longstreet was probing the defensive line of the Union. Also during that time, Major General Braxton Bragg sent infantry reinforcements and his chief engineer, Brigadier General Danville Ledbetter, to Knoxville. Knowing that reinforcements were on the way also could have led Longstreet to delay the attack of Fort Sanders. Colonel Edward Porter Alexander felt that the weakest point in the line was surrounding Fort Sanders. But just because he was delayed in his actual attack of Fort Sanders, Longstreet did order Captain White R. McLean, who was commanding Company A, 51st Georgia, Bryan's brigade, who was part of the McLaws Division across the Tennessee River to Cherokee Heights. Longstreet also sent the 4 10-pounder Parrott rifles of William W. Parker's Virginia Battery to Cherokee Heights as well. The battle for Fort Sanders would not take place for several days, but in the meantime, beginning on November 22, 1863, Parker's battery would shell the fort from the distance of 2,300 yards or 2,103 meters away. Why attack Kingston? Confederate Lieutenant General James Longstreet saw that he could have a huge problem on his hands. Standing in the way of his communications with General Bragg in Chattanooga were Union troops garrisoned around Kingston, Tennessee. Fearing that those troops could potentially cut off the communication line, Longstreet relied upon the investigation of the area by Colonel H.B. Lyon and his 320 Confederate cavalrymen. Lyon mistakenly reported that there were only 2 Union cavalry regiments that were guarding Kingston. We do not know the reason behind this major miscalculation. However, it does seem to be odd that Longstreet has a huge problem with his scouts giving accurate information. We could speculate that perhaps a spy was feeding Longstreet misinformation. That to ensure a Union victory, the numbers were misreported. We do know that inside of Knoxville that there was a spy for the Confederate Army named Belle Boyd. Because the Union was well aware of Boyd and her reputation as a spy, it is doubtful that she could give an accurate account of the defenses of and around Knoxville. Wheeler sent to dislodge the garrison. Major General Joseph Wheeler was given orders by Longstreet to clear out Kingston to ensure that the communication lines would remain intact. Wheeler left behind 5 of his cavalry regiments to help cover the area between Jenkins' left flank and the river, which was east of Knoxville. He took with him to Kingston 2 divisions of his Confederate cavalry. Those 2 divisions would be comprised of men from Armstrong's division and William T. Martin's division. On November 23, 1863, Wheeler's cavalry began its march towards Kingston, Tennessee. After pushing through the day and night, the cavalry finally arrived early in the morning of November 24th, tired and hungry. Byrd's surprise. Wheeler and his men were in for a huge surprise. Waiting for the troops in Kingston was Colonel Robert K. Byrd and his forces. In those forces were Colonel Samuel R. Mott's Federal Infantry Brigade, White's division, They were officially known as the 1st Brigade, 2nd Division, 23rd Corps, Army of the Ohio, who were 4 regiments strong. The Tennessee Mountain Infantry was also there, along with Captain Andrew M. Woods' Eglin, Illinois Battery. In total, this would be a Union force of 1 infantry brigade and 1 mounted infantry regiment. The Confederate force would be 2 cavalry divisions minus 5 regiments. Not only were these men well posted and dug in, but they would prove impossible to dislodge from their positions. Added to the fact that Wheeler was hopelessly outnumbered in the force strength. At noon on the same day, Wheeler saw that he was basically defeated in his purpose and withdrew his men from the battle. The Union would lose 20 men to casualties, while the Confederate would lose 50 men. Wheeler then placed his cavalry under the command of Brigadier General William T. Martin, and they returned to rejoin Longstreet's forces around Knoxville. Wheeler himself left the area and rejoined Bragg's army in Chattanooga. The skirmishes at Knoxville. While Wheeler was traveling toward Kingston on November 23rd, Confederate Brigadier General Michael Jenkins advanced his troops to the railroad north of Knoxville. This prompted an immediate response from the Union soldiers. They set fire and burned several buildings near the railroad depot, where there was a quantity of old ammunition stored. This explosive show was entertainment for the residents of Knoxville. The next morning, November 24th, Brigadier General John Frederick Hartranft ordered his troops to attack Confederates who had taken their places at the railroad. This was a success, with the Union only losing 22 men in the skirmish. During this same morning, Brevet Major General Edward Ferraro ordered the 2nd Michigan Infantry Regiment out of their defensive positions to attack William W. Parker's Virginia Battery, who was shelling Fort Sanders. Even though the Union did win this attack, they had to pull back because of heavy losses. That day, Longstreet will replace Captain Wyatt R. McLean's and Company A, 51st Georgia, Bryan's Brigade, with the brigades under the commands of Brigadier Generals Evander M. Law and Jerome B. Robertson, both from Jenkins' division. In next week's video, we will cover the battle for Fort Sanders. Would the delay that Longstreet had ordered be costly to the Confederate forces, or would the delay be helpful in taking the fort from the Union? Thank you. We at Kentucky Tennessee Living would like to thank you for watching our video series on the Appalachian Civil War battles. Don't forget to hit that like button, as the more likes we receive, the more likely YouTube is to suggest our videos to other viewers. Also, to receive notice when we upload a new video, be sure to subscribe and click the bell notification button. We thank you for continuing to support Kentucky Tennessee Living as we are discovering the mysteries in Appalachian history.